I think we're on. I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this evening's Flash Fiction 101. Say hello if you're here, please, so I can actually see your comments coming up this week. Last week it was a bit tricky to see the comments, but it's nice to be back and to share with you some Flash Fiction tips. What I want to talk to you today about is creating characters for Flash Fiction. And there's lots and lots of things. Hi, Susie, nice to see you. It's lots of things out there that will give you how to do character profiles, how to get to know your character. And we'll look at those. But at the end of the day, you haven't got that much time, really, in many situations, especially if you're writing a quick Flash Fiction, to develop your character in such a rounded way as you might do for a whole fiction novel. But there are definitely tips and tricks to see to help you on your way to creating better characters. So I've got three of you. I can see three are here, but I can't see who you all are. So let me have a look. If I can see, I don't know. Let's have a look at. I'm just trying to find comments. I don't know. Hello, whoever you are, and see how it goes. So Flash Fiction. Let's just go and revisit what we said last week. Hi Neil, nice to see you. Thanks for putting your comment in. I wanted just to recap what we did last week, which was in Flash Fiction 101. Hi Susie, nice to see you as well. And that was Flash Fiction has like 6 things that you want to remember. So I've written them down here to remind myself. Hi Tracy, nice to see you as well. And everything that I talked to you about today is available to you as notes. If you just DM me afterwards, I will send you everything that I've been talking about. So the first thing with Flash Fiction, we want strong imagery. We want to have things that are punchy and vibrant and all that kind of really good stuff. Nothing wishy-washy. Every single word counts. And that's exciting because you're not wasting time. You're not writing waffle. Every single word you write down counts. Stick to one moment or one scene if you can. 2 scenes maximum. Hi Tanya, nice of you to join us. 2 scenes takes a little bit more working, and usually you need 2 characters, and I like 1 main character if I can to give the punch. And then try the first person point of view. We didn't really talk much about that, and we'll come back to that later, but points of view, which angle the story is being told from. And first person point of view means that you're telling the story as if it's happening to you. And that's usually you can get some good deep, vibrant emotions pinging forth if you can imagine it's coming from your mouth. Surprise the reader. Always try and add a surprise if you can. Something that looks different. The story might be different, or the ending might be different, or the person might be different, or there might be something odd or unusual. But try and surprise your reader. And make good use of your title. And we'll talk a lot about this on another day, but titles are really important, and they can make or break a good story, which we'll find out later on today, because I've got a little story that I'm actually going to read to you, because I'm not allowed to print it out for you. But I'm going to read you a very short Flash Fiction. I'm going to look at what we're talking about at the same time. So characters, okay? And I don't think we're going to take an hour today. I think it's going to be much quicker. But characters, what do you want the character to do in the story? Do you want them to tell the story? Do you want the story to be happening to them? Is it the story about them? Is it a story about somebody else? What does your character do? What do you want that character to do in your story? And why does the character want to be there? You say, why does the character want to be there? Because I put it there. No. Why does the character want to be in the story? Have they got something new to say? Have they got a point of view that is fresh perspective, and that your reader is going to go, wow, that's very cool. And in order to get a character to be believable, to have this kind of punch and power within the story itself, you need to make sure that the character is well-rounded And that's hard when it's only a few words. That's really hard. So how do we do it? Well, this is the key. If you go to any character-based suggestions, profiles, or anything like that on the internet, and there are lots of them, and I've included a whole load of tips and hints for you on the notes, you will find the way of profiling your character to bring them to life, to ask them a series of questions so that you get to know your character before you even write the character down. And Proust famously had 35 questions that he asked his characters. And once his characters had answered these questions, he was able to know the character so well that however he wrote about that character would be perfectly descriptive of that character's personality, looks, mood, values, all that kind of thing. Now, I'm not going to read you out the 35 questions. I am going to send them to you if you want the notes. But to give you the first basic idea, he says, what is your idea of perfect happiness? Wow. I'm going to ask that question to my character, that other story I wrote today. It was a little girl who's 13. And I asked her, what is your idea of perfect happiness? And her answer would come back that my parents stay together, not divorced. Oh, I know, a bit of a sad story this morning. But that would give me an idea of how she would react. Hi, Sandra, nice to see you. Long time no see. It's good to see you in here. Another question, what is your greatest fear? Hi, Jackie. And the greatest fear of my character this morning was that she was alone and not able to survive. That's her greatest fear. She can't survive the grown-up world. And we see by the end of the story, she learns how to survive the grown-up world because her greatest fear, one of the things that she's really frightened of, the loss of her happiness, actually happens to her. So you end up with a story about a child who is scared of her parents getting divorced, but then ending up quite strong with some strange skills that will enable her to continue in her life. So lots of questions. I've got a whole bunch of them here and a whole load on different things that I'm going to give to you if you ask for them. The other way to do a character profile, and you would do this usually when you've got a longer piece of fiction, when you've got more descriptions of the characters you're going to use, more instances and types of way you're going to hear the character talk and the type of vocabulary they use, that kind of thing. You find a profile where you actually get to list the age, hair color, eye color, weight, build. You've got lots of profiles you can fill in with details that you can use in your story. The one thing you're not going to do when you've got to know your character is actually info dump. Hi, Maya, nice to see you. But info dumping means you take all the information about your character that you've decided to research or invent, and then you dump it on the page. So you say something like, oh, he was 6'4" with brown hair and green eyes, and think, what the hell, what's that got to do with the story? You want to add those details carefully that would make the story interesting. It's only interesting that somebody's 6'4" if their height is particularly important to the story or the other character who might be shorter. See what I mean? Each detail needs to have a reason to be there. And if you've got all these profiles, this shape of a character that you're working from, you're able to choose quite carefully which details are going to work. Because remember, every word counts in a flash fiction. So I know that you've got all these profiles, you've got all these questions you can ask, but I do it very differently, generally. When I'm doing a long fiction, of course, I do profile my characters. I will take a photograph off the internet of someone that looks approximately like my character. I will answer questions about them. I will build the profile as if I was profiling a person in a crime or something like that. Because a longer fiction needs more details. But for a flash fiction, I have got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-step attached 4 characters. And the first one is pick one character. Pick one main character. You can have two if you've got like a side character, but one main character. It's got to be about one person mainly. Much, much easier. You're going to stick to one or two scenes. Your character cannot take part in lots of different scenes because it's not a flash fiction anymore. It's going to be a short story. And then the rules are slightly different. You're going to have what's called a pertinent description. This is my key. And if my flash fiction doesn't have a pertinent description on the first round, by the second draft, it will. Now, a pertinent description, it's a description that gives you an idea about the character, okay, but will also give the story a little bit more, push the story a little bit further on. So I've got two examples for you. He wore his best suit trousers over his broken leg. He wore his best suit trousers over his broken leg. Well, I know lots of things now about this person, don't I? From that one very simple sentence, pertinent description. Another one from the story I wrote today. School was lockdowns, uniforms by day and night, and heavily timetabled activities. So from the description used for the school and the activities, it's very clear to see how this person views school, how they experience school, and what the school in fact is like. So pertinent descriptions, we've got one character, hopefully one scene, a pertinent description, which is really nice and twisted and packed full of detail in one sentence. And then an unusual connection. I always try and find an unusual connection for my character. And it might be an action or a reaction that will give me this idea. An unusual connection for a different story that I found the other day was petunias always make the best guard dogs. I love that. Petunias always make the best guard dogs. Well, it doesn't make very much sense, but in the story that I was reading, it was very much an unusual connection with guard dogs and these flowers, but it worked really well. Today I wrote, she felt her teeth flatten, she felt her lips flatten against her teeth and needed to pick a fight. She felt her lips flatten against her teeth and needed to pick a fight. We don't normally think about when you're sucking your teeth in, your lips in, that you're going to want to explode, because one is an action that withdraws and the other is an action of explosion. So the two things together are an unusual connection to put them together. She felt her lips flatten against her teeth and needed to pick a fight. I quite like that one. And that again gives me more information about my character, what she looks like, what her emotional response appears to be, and what's going on in her mind. Then suggestive statements, connecting place and character. I try and have a statement that connects the character with a location if I can. And it doesn't have to be the whole location of the whole scene. It could be just a tiny bit of a scene. One of the stories I found this week, I was looking for strange, unusual examples, was he worked as a stripper at the fire station. Fantastic, fantastic suggestive statement. Worked as a stripper at the fire station. Well, obviously it wasn't a stripper who took the clothes off, it was a stripper, paint stripper, but it was a very strange location and a placement for this person's character. I wrote this morning, the one I wrote this morning was, she wanted to smash the dashboard of the car. Suggesting that something, she's angry, suggesting she's angry, locating her in the car where this is happening. Are your volumes low? Is it? I mean, let's see if I can turn the volume up, guys, and see if that makes a difference. Hopefully that's going to make a bit of a difference to you guys. Thanks for letting me know, Neil. So again, I've got a suggestive statement which connects the character to a place. That's always quite good because again, it carries my story a little bit further forward. And then you make an assumption, or your character makes an assumption. And that assumption usually has a twist or a kick or a punch if it can. The assumption is sometimes not what the reader is expecting. An assumption could be something as simple as, I never fitted in. That's an assumption. This morning, I wrote, growing up equals lessons in lying. Well, that's an assumption, because it doesn't necessarily mean lessons in lying is what growing up is about, but that's what I came to do. So just someone's saying they've got no sound. If you've got sound, can you send me a little love heart or a ping or something on the side so I can see? And if you haven't got sound, then I'll see what I can do. But as far as I can see, everything is tickety boom. Oh, I've got some love hearts coming up, so somebody can hear me, which is good. Thank you. That's great. I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep going. If you can't get the sound level you want, go to this recording on YouTube, which will be there in the next 2 days. And it'll be this tarted up for YouTube. So pertinent description, my key little thing was a pertinent description, an unusual connection, a suggestive statement, and an assumption. And an assumption. So those, if you can put those in about your character, you will create intimate details about your character that will help your story. So it doesn't matter if your character is 6'2" or 5'1", if it doesn't matter, if it doesn't relate to the story. It doesn't matter if you've got your character with blonde hair or black hair. It doesn't matter. What matters is that your character is there, has an excellent description, has a really important description about them and the situation, give them an unusual connection, a suggestive statement, which connects the place and the character, and an assumption. And I promise you, if you can pick those as your main key drivers for your character, you'll find it much easier, much easier. And of course, it's lovely to have time to create profiles of characters, especially when you're doing longer fiction, because it's fun. You get to know the character in and out. But it's not always, you don't always have that much time if you're trying to produce a certain amount of work at a certain rate. You don't always have a lot of time to spend creating this wonderful relationship with a character. Of course, it would be nice if you could, but it's not always easy to do. So what I want to basically give you, and so is a little story time. And this is by Diane Williams, a collected shorts of Diane Williams, who is a master, an absolute master. Hi, Lisa, nice to see you. And she is a master in writing flash fiction. So award-winning, everything's fantastic. So I'm going to read from her books. I'm not allowed to print it, so I'm going to read a very short story. It's half a page, half a small page. It's called Spanish. Remember, a good title, very important. I wish that everything is enough for Mr. Red, who is the husband, who has a heavy Spanish accent. He is a scholar. Mrs. Red speaks English with a heavy Spanish accent also, and she is a full-time scholar also. Today I saw the Red's bed of scarlet impatience waving in the wind, which was quite unremarkable. But that is not all. Mrs. Red, who is probably responsible for the planting of the flowers, was on her way, carrying her folded up folding chair and several other things. She was big enough, even with carrying all of her things, so she could fit comfortably between my thumb and forefinger from where I sat inside my house watching her. That was my perspective on my hand. To me, she's like cutie pie, like a little doll. Society, schools, hospitals, factories and homes are the other victims of the perpetual movement of philosophical thought, as well as many other organelles. I know, that's bonkers, isn't it? It's like, what are you talking about, woman? That is one of the nicest, quite clever, smart, funny, tricky stories that I found of hers, and there are loads of them in here. So I went through this and I was thinking, okay, let's see if she's followed my plan of, you know, personal description, blah, blah, all that kind of thing. So I'll just get my little notes here from outside. So first of all, how many characters? Well, she has 3 characters technically, but it's in first person. So it really is about the one person who's watching what's going on and telling you about something. Okay, so we've got one main character. We don't know what her name is. We don't know if it's a him or a her. But we know it's first person, someone reporting something's happening. So we've got one scene, okay? So one scene where we're sitting watching it, Mrs. Red from the outside. And then pertinent descriptions. She's got loads of pertinent descriptions. Things like, who has a heavy Spanish accent. So now I know he's Spanish. Mr. Red is Spanish. Who also has a heavy Spanish accent, the wife. She's also Spanish. A bed of scarlet impatience waving in the wind. That's a great description of the garden. And also now outside wind. So it's not in an apartment block. I've got an idea of a house, maybe some wind coming through a garden, all this kind of stuff. So there's definitely a pertinent description. Unusual connection. Unusual connection. She could fit comfortably between my thumb and my forefinger from where I sat. She could sit, but it's a strange connection to have somebody sit between your thumb and forefinger. Of course, she's looking at it like this, but it's the idea. You put these words on the page, it's like, what? That's a bit weird. That looks a bit strange, but it gives you story, which is what we want. It gives you story. And then assumptions. We've got this amazing assumption at the end about society, schools, hospitals, and factories. And you're like, what was that about? I will tell you. Rewatch this film, this bit of video, and work it out. I'm not going to spoil that one. It's really good. And we've got this unusual connection, and we've got this location as well where she actually mentions that she's sitting inside her house watching the others outside with a folding chair and the other folding things. So yes, she does the same thing as me. She uses the same little techniques. Now, where did I find these techniques? I can't remember. I've been using them for so long. But I will give you, Katie, hi Katie, nice to see you. But I will give you every little bit of note that I've taken and found over the years, and I will write it a list, and you're going to get that if you want it. So for flash fiction characters, you want to give them, we'll make them 1 or 2, no more. It's nice to see you, Casey. 1 or 2, no more. You want to make sure that you've got 1 scene if possible, 2 at a push, but 1 if possible. And you've got your wonderful descriptions, your strange things put together, your locations and suggestions, all this sort of stuff. And the one thing that I haven't mentioned, and I can't believe I forgot, it's a name. You need a good name. If you're going to use a name, make it a good one. Mr. Red and Mrs. Red, the Spanish people. Sounds very strange, isn't it? To call Mr. Red is Spanish. He's got a heavy Spanish accent, but that's what he's called. So I remember that. It's an unusual name for a Spanish character, Mr. Red. I wanted a name for a young girl today, so I used Hannah, which is a popular name amongst teenagers right now. It would have been strange if I'd called her Esmeralda or Esme or something, or I don't know, Agatha. It might have given her a different age. I wanted to make sure that the name was suitable for a teenager of this time. So the name was important because it will give you lots of information about the type of character that you're writing about. So a good name. Another key suggestion is don't have 2 characters with names that begin with the same letter. So don't have Bernard and Barry unless that's part of the story, that they have a connection, because it becomes very confusing for your reader to go through. Is that Bernard or Barry, or is that Terry or Trucy? Or give them different letter names, and it's much easier for the reader to discern what's happening, and easier for you to remember as well, because it's not unknown that I've written one name halfway through the story and then changed it the other way half and forgotten which name I've used. So pick a good name, make sure you write it down and you remember which one you're using, so you don't have 2 different names in the story, and make sure that it's very different to any other characters that you give them. So that's really sort of my crash course in characters for flash fiction. So let's have a look. 25 minutes, not too bad. It's better than an hour. I mean, last time we did a write-in, so we had time for people to sit and write. And I think if you want another write-in, we can do one. Just let me know what you prefer, or if you like these short bits of, you know, how to do it and to get stuck in with some facts and some little bits of hints and tips. Hi, Maggie, nice to see you. Haven't seen you for a very long time either. So that's it for today, folks. We've got this lovely flash fiction. We've got this idea, the story. You know roughly how many words you're going to do. You know, you've got 6 kind of guiding principles for them. We know you've got a character now, and hopefully you're going to come up with a top name. And next time we're going to talk about developing the plot a bit more. Okay, so we did a very overarching general flash fiction. Now we've done character, and the next one we're going to talk about is plot, which will be hopefully lots of fun for you. And if you've got any queries or questions, just ask. And where's the dog? The dog is not with me today, but maybe she'll be with us next week. Anyway, thanks so much for listening, everybody, and popping along. I really appreciate it. And remember, you can always watch this again either on Facebook or on YouTube at JL Nash. All right then, guys. Bye. Sleep well. Bye-bye.